Hello super friends and welcome to DC TV Talk. This is the show where we talk all things Supergirl, The Flash, Legends of Tomorrow, Arrow and Black Lightning. And in today's video we're going to be discussing if Ralph Dibny, aka the Elongated Man, is really dead come the end of The Flash Season 4 Episode 18. So let's discuss. So towards the end of The Flash Season 4 Episode 18, which was called Lose Yourself, we saw Clifford DeVoe, aka the Thinker, actually take over the body of Ralph Dibny and therefore leaving Ralph dead. And this was a very interesting development I think a lot of us saw coming in this episode, but it has begged the question whether Ralph has actually died, or will, in typical Flash fashion, or typical Arrowverse fashion in general should I say, will he come back from the dead in some form. So now that DeVoe has taken over Ralph's body, this does mean that he of course now embodies what Ralph actually looks like, or at least for a short amount of time. This is something that, again, we all kind of predicted that if DeVoe was able to take over Ralph's body, that means he was able to utilize his powers, and Ralph can actually shapeshift. We obviously saw him use that a couple of times, and this led to a very satisfying scene where DeVoe managed to shapeshift himself back into his original body and his original look, which of course is played by the wonderful Neil Sandilands. So Neil Sandilands is now back on the show as DeVoe, which is brilliant. He was easily the best part about the Thinker, and every time that we just switched to a new body, none of them were as good as Neil Sandilands was, just as standard Clifford DeVoe. And now we've got him back. He's got a slightly different look with different hair. He's now got shorter hair. I guess that's just another thing perhaps he wanted to change about himself, which he now could. And that was great. It's so good to have Neil Sandilands back, and obviously he's going to be in this body now until, until the end of the season, because all the other bus metas are dead now. So, well, there is that one that's in the next episode, but yeah, I'm pretty sure everyone else is dead at this point. So we now have DeVoe actually looking like he used to with Ralph's body. So the big question now is Ralph Dibny dead? The definitive answer is yes, but there is a couple of pieces of evidence that hint this may not be the last we see of Ralph Dibny. The big thing we need to look at here is the set photos that have been released from the filming of the finale, which is titled We Are the Flash, which, no, that is not a joke. The title is actually We Are the Flash. But moving on from that, from these set photos we can see a few things, one of which is DeVoe is still in his old body. You can actually see DeVoe, he's there, and he's in his old body, in his chair. That is definitely Neil Sandilands, which was brilliant news. So we kind of knew that Neil Sandilands was coming back before this episode, based on those set photos, if you keep up with that stuff of course. But what's important to notice here is that Barry and DeVoe are next to the bus. Now, obviously, the bus has been a very relevant storyline this season. This is where everything's kind of stemmed from with the bus metas. They all came from this one bus that was directly under the portal, or under the breach that Barry came through after he exited the Speed Force. And that's when all that dark matter basically consumed that bus, and everyone on there became a metahuman. Now, one of those people is, of course, Ralph Dibny. Now, if they are next to this bus, what does that mean? Well, this most likely suggests that Barry actually runs back in time to this moment, which is obviously very contradictory to everything that's been established ever since Flashpoint, which is that Barry said he's never going to run back in time again, which is something I've always found a bit silly, especially in Enter Flashpoint, which was episode 15 of this season, where if he would have just ran back in time a couple of seconds, he could have just stopped everything, and it wouldn't have changed anything. So I don't know why time travel is seen as such a bad thing when it can actually be very useful and effective at times. Obviously I understand it after all the effects of Flashpoint, but it's not like he's, changing the timeline drastically. He's literally going back a couple seconds to stop a nuclear bomb going off. It's not a massive issue. But it seems like in this he is going back in time again to where he came out of the Speed Force, which is going to be very interesting because that could mean he may be interacting with that version of himself, which, as we know from Legends of Tomorrow, can be very, very dangerous. But, I mean, the rules of time travel in Legends and Flash seem to be completely different, so who cares? So this does suggest that Barry will be running back in time, and he would be running back in time to save all the bus metas, because obviously his big goal this season, besides taking down DeVoe, was to save all the bus metas that DeVoe was after. So if he goes back to the bus, he is most likely going to save all of the bus metas. So what does that mean for Ralph? It would suggest that if Barry is going back to save all the bus metas, it would suggest that Ralph Dibny would also be saved, as he is of course a bus meta. So that means Ralph would be able to get off that bus and basically just live on as if nothing ever happened to him. And, again, we don't know what would really happen here. We don't know what would be going on with Ralph in terms of his relationships with anybody. He would literally just be there on the bus where nothing would have happened to him. It just would have been a normal day. But it could mean that Ralph actually does live on. But if Ralph is actually saved from the bus before anything happens, that could potentially mean that he does not receive his metahuman powers along with every other bus meta like Becky Sharp and everyone else on there. It could mean that he loses his stretch powers, which would be a very sad moment. Now, there could be a moment where, in fact, he actually, Barry runs back in time and it actually takes place after Barry came out of the Speed Force, so he still has his powers. I could see them doing something like that. But that means that DeVoe would still want them and still need them, whereas if they didn't have their powers, then they'd be of no use to DeVoe. So I have a feeling that Ralph, he may survive and he may live on after this episode based on the finale, but he may not have powers anymore. So what does that mean for the future of his character? Well, that is what's very interesting to discuss, because if you would have asked me a while ago, I definitely would have said, oh, Ralph is going to become a series regular in Season 5. He is basically Barry's sidekick now. He is a metahuman. He's on Team Flash. He's well established. He's got his own costume, which, if he's got his own costume, then that's, a lot of money for the CW to put in. So you'd think they'd have to kind of suspect a future for him on the show. But if he doesn't have his powers, then what's his relevance? It's not like Cisco, where if Cisco didn't have any powers, he would still be of big use to Team Flash. Same with Caitlin. If she didn't have powers, she'd still have use to Team Flash because they're both very smart people. Ralph Dibny, if he didn't have his powers, he wouldn't really have any relevance on Team Flash. And that's why I can't really see him progressing further than Season 4 if he's not got his powers. Now, I can see them doing a switcheroo, in a very Flash style where they will just find a way to keep his powers and restore his powers. But if they don't do that, I can't see Ralph going forward. However, if they do find a way to, restore his powers or keep his powers, then I could definitely see him becoming a series regular in Season 5. But what do you guys think is going on with Ralph Dibny this season? Do you think he's dead for good, or do you think he's coming back? Well, I'll definitely give you a hint. He is definitely coming back because he was seen on set for filming the finale, so he does come back at some point. But do you guys think he's going to come back as a series regular next season? Do you think he's going to get his powers? Do you think he's going to lose his powers? What do you think is going on in the finale? The finale looks to be extremely insane at this point, so make sure you tell me all your thoughts in the comment section down below. So, thank you guys for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please give it a like. It will help me out a lot. And share this video with anyone and everyone you know who loves DC TV and get them to join the community. And as always, guys, please subscribe for all of your latest content on Supergirl, The Flash, Legends of Tomorrow, Arrow, and Black Lightning. And with all that said, guys, I hope to see you again in my next video.